Great, thank you so much. Well, thank you everybody for joining today. What I want to do is really give you an introduction to OLC and the various resources that you all have access to as members. And then, if you have questions as I'm talking, please feel free to interrupt. I am going to share my screen, so I won't necessarily see the chat. So if you want to come off mute, that would probably be helpful so that I know that you have any questions. Is everybody familiar with OLC kind of in a general sense? Yes, a little bit maybe. So OLC is a nonprofit. We've been around for quite a while. Some people have known us as Sloan, that's how we started, and have changed over the years to the iteration of the Online Learning Consortium that we are today. And we have a lot of different resources to really help support the online learning experience. And that is not only for students who are taking online courses, but also for the faculty and staff that have a hand in those online courses in a variety of different ways. And so our goal is to really provide different resources to help your professional development journey wherever you're at, to kind of help your process and help your professional development, and ultimately what will help the students and the college as a whole. So I'm going to just go ahead and share my screen here so you can see the OLC webpage. And the very first thing that I want to encourage everybody to do is to create an OLC account. And this will allow you to access all of the resources, and the system then recognizes you as a member. And so then when you're kind of playing around on here, you're not running into any issues. And it's really easy to create an account. You just go up here to the login button, and then you will be able to go down here and create an account. And when you're creating an account, you put in an email address. Make sure to use your school email address. So because that's how the system ties you to the fact that Hunter College is a member institution. So make sure to use the hunter.cuny.edu email address when you're signing up, and then you'll put in some information, just your name, your email address, the school that you're at. And I also encourage you, when you're doing that, to sign up for the OLC newsletter. This will keep you informed of all the new things that are happening. And it's a great resource, anywhere from our calls for proposal to our conference, to new webinars, to new workshops. So that's a great resource to have as well. And then there are quite a few resources here on the website, and I want to highlight a handful of them for you, so that you know what's there. There's definitely more on the site, but I wanted to kind of highlight a few items that I think might be exciting. So one of the first things I want to show you are what we call, it's under our tools tab. These are our faculty playbooks. You could go in and download any of the playbooks. We actually just released this new online adjunct faculty one. And this blended institution of higher education is also a new faculty playbook. And these are really great resources for you to explore on different topics. We do them in partnership. You can see here with Every Learner Everywhere, and sometimes another partner, kind of depending on the topic, to really bring you a tool to be able to have a discussion on these different topics. So like, here's the table of contents for this one. I was focusing on student needs and success, on equity and inclusiveness, and really being able to have a resource that not only you can utilize as a discussion point for others on campus, but really pull from this to apply to what it is that you do on campus. And so there are quite a few of these. These actually were born out of the pandemic. We first started with it should still be on here. Some of our, emergency resources, and some of them have been updated since the pandemic, but like navigating COVID while going to emergency remote teaching, that's where this started. And there's been such a great response to them that we've continued to create these in conjunction with a variety of different people. I know some people use them for like lunch and learns or brown bag sessions as well, because some of the documents are a little lengthy, and we want to make sure that you have the opportunity to really dive deep into them. And so sometimes utilizing them as a conversation piece between people is a really great way to not just have this resource, but then say, well, how does that apply to us? How does that apply to our students? And how can we, what can we take from this and make it a kind of our own? So that's a great resource. Another thing that we have was we do have the scorecards, and this might be where if you had some any information or knowledge of OLC in the past, a lot of people know us from our scorecard suite, which is a benchmarking tool to really help you gauge the quality of your online courses. And a lot of this started when we started working with SUNY on what's called the Oscar course design scorecard. But there are, since we've partnered with SUNY, there are a variety of other scorecards that you have access to as members, including a blended learning one on quality course teaching. And as members, you actually have access to the interactive versions of these. And you have the ability to set up any of them in your OLC account that I talked about creating earlier. And it's one of the, if I log in myself, I can show you. It's really easy, which I really love, and this is new to be able to access it yourself in your account. It used to be that we'd have to reach out to the scorecard team and say, hey, can you set this up for us? And it was a whole process. So one of the things that they just released recently was the ability to do this. So if you log in, you can go to the scorecard portal, and here's where you can access the interactive versions of the scorecards. Are there any questions on this piece? Oops, I didn't mean to log out. That's okay, I'll log back in real quick. Great, well, I will keep talking about the different pieces, but let me know if you have questions as we go along. Another thing that I really want to highlight are some of the other publications that we have within our research center and the online learning journal. Another place that people might know us for is the online learning journal. It's a peer-reviewed journal that comes out quarterly. Every once in a while, we do have some special issues that of the journal that come out. But this is also a great tool to utilize, and we're always looking for submissions for publication. So if this is something that interests you, I highly suggest looking into it. If you want more information about how to submit an article for it, please feel free to reach out to me after, and I can connect you with the various people that really focus on the journal. It's a great way, it's a great place to be able to search for different content. And I think it's really easy to navigate, and you can download any of these articles and utilize them in a variety of different ways. I like to add in the publication date when I'm searching. Some, depending on the topic that you're looking at, especially, like there are things that are on here that have been around for a little while. The pandemic has changed the way we do a few things. So sometimes I like to have a little bit more updated articles, but sometimes it's always great too to look back at history and reflect on how things were, and to kind of see the progress and how where we've been and where we've gone. And sometimes, learning from history is also important. There are also some other publications here within the Read tab that you can use. Most of these are, you can just access them and download the white papers. If there's any publication that has a cost associated with it, which is few and far between, but it does happen. As members, you do have a member discount on them. But you should be able to go through and download almost all of these publications. The other place I really want to highlight too, we have a blog, and if you want to submit a blog post, another great way to be involved in the OLC community, really network and share your expertise and experience in the online learning space. So definitely another great place to participate kind of as part of the overall OLC community. We do also have our conferences. Has anyone attended any of our conferences before? So it's really funny because I've had people who go, "Oh, you're the Disney World conference. I know you." And I'm like, "Sure, if that's the name for us, then yes, we're the Disney World conference." And that's where OLC has done their conference for a really long time. With the pandemic and things changing, we've been doing some remotely, as well as slowly coming back to in person. So last fall we were in DC. This winter, spring-ish, March and April. In April, we were in Dallas, but then we're going back to Florida here next fall and in person. We will still have a virtual component of the conference as well. So definitely something to keep in mind when you're kind of thinking about, different conferences you are wanting to attend and kind of thinking about timing. Our calls for proposal are still open for the conference. If that's something that you wanted to participate in. I actually talked to somebody yesterday who was like, "What's the deadline? Do I still have time?" So you still have time to submit your proposal for a presentation. And if this is something that interests you, again, let me know. We have an entire conference team that works with the people that not only are providing their submissions, but also ultimately get picked. And as part of the conference kind of resources, we have presenter resources. And I'm saying this as I'm talking because they're going to be adding it to this tab right here. It's not there yet because this is new. Right now it lives within the conference space, and I can send a link to this so it's easier to find later. But we do have some great resources on presenting online. And there's a lot here kind of came out of providing support for those who want to present at the conference. But you can utilize this as a resource to present at other conferences or just in general. And there's our plans to kind of continue to build out. There are different resources here, but there's different webinars that you can access the recordings of. There are, if my mouse will let me show you, there are some new opportunities here to volunteer, to be a mentor as a presenter, to work on some special projects or help with create some of our content. So a great place to also get involved. Any questions before I move on to the next portion? So it's really funny. I've learned that you have to give, about 7 seconds to let people decide if they're comfortable. Then everybody else is like, "Why are you sitting there?" And I'm like, "I promise it's so that we let people chime in." So the other area of resources that we have is called our Institute for Professional Development. And this is where you'll find a lot of different resources from our workshops to our webinars. And so the first thing I want to show you are the webinars that we have. In fact, we have a new one coming up later this month on designing neuro-inclusive learning environments. Very excited about this webinar. And if that's something that you're interested in, I love that you just signed up. I was able to find the chat so I can see it on the other screen. I love it. I'm very excited about this personally. If you cannot attend though, you will be able to access the recordings. So any of you, if you thought, "Oh, I would love to attend, but I'm not available at 1 o'clock, that's okay. You'll be able to see the recording later. And there you do have access to all the recordings of the various workshops that we have by just going to all webinars. And I like to see the most recent webinars that just happened. So I changed the view to the second option, coming soon last, which I think is kind of a funny way to say that. But there are quite a few in here. We had a couple on OER recently. We had a series on digital literacy and AI, which was really exciting. We also had, there was one, a case study about the use of the scorecards. And that was, this is a really good example from Baker College. And they've continued to, work with us on this after the webinar as well. But it was a great opportunity to really hear from a school that has been using the scorecards. We also just did, November feels like it was like 5 days ago. I know somehow we've made it to May of 2022 already. But we had this workshop on RSI, which I also think was really exciting as well. But they're really easy to access. I will say, if you ever have any issues with viewing any of the recordings, it tends to be browser issue. So if you ever run into an issue with that, again, you can always reach out to me and let me know. You just click on the watch the recording, put your information in there, and when you hit register, you'll get an email with a link to be able to access the recording. So it's really easy to be able to view them after the fact. The other thing that I want to highlight really quick are some of the workshops that we have. There are 73, I think, different workshop topics. So as you look at the opportunities here, and if you get lost, you feel overwhelmed, this is what I'm here for, is to help you navigate these resources and kind of find what you're looking for, or potentially say, it's a really great idea, we don't have anything on that topic, but let me forward that along to the right people, because there are quite a few options here when it comes to our workshops. One of which that's a little newer is on the blended learning, creating your own self-blend. We have a new one on RSI that just came out actually like 2 weeks ago, I believe. So this time when I said just come out, that was a real just came out, not my November example from the webinar. But there are a lot of different opportunities here to take various workshops on a lot of different topics. One way to sort through them is by looking at the different tracks. And what that'll do is that'll bring up the workshops that are kind of broken up into these different areas. And then you can look at the different workshops kind of a little bit more detail. I will tell you, as you're thinking about if I want to take a workshop or not, the workshops come in either self-paced, where you have a whole year to complete the program or the workshop, 3 days or 7 days. Regardless of those three options, though, we say it takes about 6 to 8 hours for you to complete the work within the webinars. And all but 2 of them are asynchronous. And so you can add that into everything else that you're doing, because we know you are very busy and we know your time is very valuable. So we wanted to make this situated in a way where you can say, this is doable to add into the other things that I have going on. So it'll take up about 6 to 8 hours worth of work. Every workshop will have a description. We'll tell you who the audience should be, so you can say, is this right for me? And it'll also tell you kind of like the level that it's at. And then the other thing to kind of know about the workshops is that when you're signing up for them, you'll want to make sure to communicate that, so that because one of the things that we're going to talk about later is how you can participate in the workshops. And there are sometimes, not always, an hour-long like office hour discussion session. Those are always going to be optional. They're always going to be recorded. So don't let that sway you from not participating either. Are there questions on these?
I think this is a good point for me to come in and let everybody know that as part of the membership, we also purchase some workshop passes. So we we want to be equitable. We wanted to make it available to everybody, but of course we have a large number of faculty and staff members. So we've created this form that Abby just put in the chat, and we would like you to let us know which workshops you would like to participate in. And so we'll do it on a first come, first serve basis. This little form is just a Google form. You need to first have an account. You have to have an account with the OLC, and then fill out this form and let me know which session, which workshop you'd like to participate in. And I need to register you using the workshop passes. So using the workshop passes means that you don't need to pay for them, right? Hunter will pay for them. But of course, again, we have a limited number of them. And so, because you're here first, I like to, tell you about them first. But I just know that if I'm not able to, I will let you know in an email that I've run out of passes. But please, take a look at what's offered. There are really quite a few of them. And just like Melissa was saying, some of them are synchronous and some of them are asynchronous. So do take advantage of, the workshop passes that we have. Thank you.
And you brought up a really good point. Kind of in talking about that, almost all, because of course OLC won't make it easy for all of us, almost all of the workshops are eligible to have the pass used for them. There are a very small number, and when I say that, I believe it's about 5 or 6 that are considered not workshop pass eligible because they are a lengthier workshop. They're 4 weeks instead of the self-paced 3 days or 7 days, but it will say that. I pulled this one up on purpose so you can see, it'll say that at the very top. So as you're searching through here, that's something to kind of keep in mind when you're thinking about, well, which workshops do I want to take? Something to kind of keep an eye out for. But again, if you have questions on this, or if you ever want to double check, even though you've clicked on a workshop and it doesn't say that at the top, feel free to reach out to me because I can always help, answer those quick questions and say, oh yeah, you're fine. Definitely put that one as one of the workshops that you want to take, because then you are set up for being able to be registered for that. And I'm just pulling up just so you can see the difference between the 4-week workshop and almost all of the other workshops where it doesn't have that listed. So you can see it's not here, but that's because this one is not workshop pass eligible, but this one is. Questions on the workshops or the webinars?
I just wanted to say that I've attended in the past, not in the last 2 years, and they're really excellent. They're really well worth taking.
Thank you for including that. I really appreciate that. It's always so fun to kind of hear feedback too on people's different experiences with the workshops. And the different topics as well. And one of the questions I actually get asked about the workshops is, well, who's teaching them? We call the teachers our facilitators, and our facilitators, depending on the topic, are either people who deal with that topic kind of like in a business setting, but most of them are faculty members, our program directors. They are working at universities doing and applying these things every single day. So, or mostly every single day. So they really are experts in the topics that they are facilitating and really helping you, learn about. So I think that's important to know too. And the other thing I will tell you, in case this excites you about the workshops, there are badging opportunities. So at the end of every workshop, you do get a certificate of completion. We are, pro tip here, we are moving from Moodle to Canvas, but right now in Moodle, the certificate doesn't come through automatically. You have to fill out a little form and then it'll get sent to you. But when we go to Canvas, it'll automatically get sent. It'll be beautiful. Very excited about this. But the other thing that you do have the opportunity to do as you're thinking about is also earn badges. And if you do over time a series of some of the workshops, like the accessibility one, my mouse is freaking out on me here, you can earn an accessibility badge or a copyright badge. So there's a handful of different badges here as well, just in case that's something that excites you, that you like to share with others. this is a great opportunity as well to really showcase, your expertise in different areas and the professional development steps that you've taken to grow yourself. So I always like to highlight that as well.